world spun in a maelstrom of darkness as I plummeted alongside Spoonie, the Nonni's bowels engulfing us in its cold embrace. I braced for impact, my thoughts a jumble of panic and disbelief. How had it come to this? The fall felt like an eternity, but in reality, it was over in seconds. I crashed onto something hard yet oddly springy, the air whooshing out of my lungs. Dazed, I lay there, trying to make sense of my surroundings. The darkness was oppressive, a small beam of light from the hole we'd fallen through barely illuminating the area. "Spoonie," I called out, my voice echoing weirdly in the cavernous space. No response. Panic clawed at my chest as I fumbled for my flashlight, the dim light finally revealing a nightmarish scene. I was in some sort of storage room, surrounded by crates and old naval equipment covered in layers of dust and cobwebs. But Spoonie was nowhere in sight. Staggering to my feet, I flicked the flashlight around, desperately searching for my friend. "Spoonie, where are you, man?" My voice sounded small, almost swallowed by the oppressive silence of the ship's belly. As I ventured forward, stepping cautiously over the debris, the flashlight's beam caught something moving in the shadows. I froze, heart pounding. It wasn't Spoonie. Something else was down here with us. The ship creaked and groaned around me, the sounds almost like whispers from the deep. Then, the faintest sound reached my ears, a distant, painful groan. "Spoonie!" I shouted, relief flooding through me. It had to be him. Clutching the flashlight like a lifeline, I moved towards the sound, my steps echoing in the abandoned corridors of the Nonni's forgotten depths. The ship seemed to come alive around me, its history seeping from the rusted walls and groaning pipes. Each step I took felt heavy, the weight of the Nonni's cursed past pressing down on me. I knew I needed to find Spoonie and figure a way out, but the darkness seemed endless, a maze designed to trap unwary souls. And as I ventured deeper, the creaks and whispers grew louder, a chilling chorus that seemed to speak of horrors yet to come. The Nonni wasn't just a ship, it was a tomb, a vessel carrying the weight of untold nightmares. And we were now part of its haunted voyage. The groans grew louder as I navigated through the labyrinth of corridors, my flashlight cutting through the darkness like a lone beacon. The air was stale, heavy with the scent of rust and decay. It felt like walking through a time capsule, untouched and forgotten. Finally, I found Spoonie. He was slumped against a wall, clutching his leg, pain etched on his face. "McGuffey!" he exclaimed with a mix of relief and agony. I quickly assessed his injury, a nasty gash on his leg, but thankfully, it wasn't life-threatening. "We need to get out of here," Spoonie said, wincing as he tried to stand. Supporting him, we slowly made our way through the ship's bowels, the eerie silence punctuated by his labored breathing and the occasional distant metallic groan. Our journey was interrupted when we stumbled upon an expansive room, its walls adorned with ancient murals. The art was hauntingly beautiful, depicting scenes of maritime lore and legend, but one mural, in particular, caught our attention. It portrayed the Nonni, surrounded by shadowy figures performing what appeared to be a ritual. "Looks like the Nonni's got a darker past than we thought," Spoonie muttered, his eyes scanning the ominous images. The murals told a story of a cursed voyage, a ship doomed by forbidden practices. As we delved deeper into the murals' secrets, the ship shuddered violently, a deep groan echoing through its frame. It was as if the Nonni was reacting to our discovery, the cursed past trying to keep its secrets buried. "We need to find the heart of this ship," I said, a sense of resolve building within me. That might be our only chance to lift this curse and stop the sinking. Spoonie nodded in agreement, his expression grim. The murals had given us a clue, but the path ahead was fraught with danger. The Nonni was more than just a ship. It was a keeper of dark secrets, and we were trapped within its haunted embrace. With Spoonie leaning on me, we continued our descent into the depths of the ship, each step taking us closer to the heart of the darkness. The murals had shown us the way, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we were walking into a trap, a deadly maze designed by the ship itself. The deeper we went, the more the ship seemed to come alive around us. The groans and creaks turned into whispers and moans, the very steel of the Nonni telling its cursed tale. We were not just fighting for survival, we were fighting against the very essence of the Nonni, a ship bound by a darkness that threatened to consume us all. Our journey through the Nonni's eerie interior led us deeper into the ship's heart. The corridors grew narrower, the air denser, as if the very ship was constricting around us. Spoonie's labored breathing was a constant reminder of our vulnerability in this floating crypt. Unexpectedly, we stumbled upon the engine room, a vast chamber that seemed untouched by time. Ancient machinery loomed like slumbering giants, coated in dust and cobwebs. It was a stark contrast to the decay we'd encountered elsewhere. This place was a preserved relic of the Nonni's past. As we navigated through the dormant engines, ghostly apparitions began to materialize around us. Transparent figures of the original crew, trapped in a never-ending cycle, worked tirelessly at their stations. It was as if we'd stepped into a moment frozen in time, a looped echo of the Nonni's doomed voyage. The specters paid us no heed, their actions repetitive and mechanical. One ghostly figure, however, broke the pattern. He turned to face us, his eyes hollow yet aware. It was then I recognized him. He bore a striking resemblance to the man in the old family photo my grandmother cherished. This spirit was my ancestor, a revelation that sent chills down my spine. The ghostly sailor approached, his form flickering like a faulty light. In hushed, ethereal tones, he revealed his part in the Nonni's curse, a tale of a forbidden ritual gone awry, dooming the ship and its crew for eternity. With a sorrowful gaze, he pointed us towards a hidden passage behind the engines, a path to the heart of the ship. "Break the cycle," he whispered, his voice fading like mist. "Free us." We continued through the hidden passage, the weight of our newfound knowledge pressing heavily upon us. The Nonni was more than cursed. It was a prison for souls, bound by the tragic mistakes of its past. The passage led us to an ornate door, its surface etched with symbols that mirrored those from the murals. Behind it, we knew, lay the heart of the Nonni. I could feel the ship pulsating around us, a living entity aware of our intentions. With a deep breath, we pushed the door open, stepping into the unknown. The room beyond was vast and dark, the air thick with the scent of the sea and something else, something ancient and malevolent. This was where the Nonni's curse pulsed strongest, where we would confront the darkness or be consumed by it. The heart of the Nonni awaited us, a chamber of secrets and shadows. Here, we would face the ultimate test, to break the cycle of the curse and free the souls trapped within this haunted vessel. But the darkness was palpable, a living thing that whispered promises of despair and madness. We had to stay strong, for the Nonni's heart was also its most dangerous trap. The room beyond the ornate door was a cavernous space, dimly lit by an eerie, otherworldly glow. The air was thick with a palpable sense of dread, and the walls seemed to pulse with a life of their own. It was as if we had stepped into the very heart of the Nonni, a place where the veil between the living and the dead was at its thinnest. In the center of the room stood an altar, adorned with nautical relics and surrounded by a circle of ghostly figures. They were chanting in an unrecognizable language, their voices a haunting melody that resonated through the chamber. It was both beautiful and terrifying. Spoonie and I exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of our discovery heavy upon us. We had found the epicenter of the Nonni's curse, but the path forward was shrouded in mystery. Our ancestor's spirit appeared once more, his form more defined in this sacred space. He beckoned us closer, his eyes filled with a sorrow that spanned decades. "Our ritual failed," he began, his voice echoing around us. "We sought to harness the sea's power, but instead, we unleashed a darkness that consumed the Nonni." He gestured to the spectral figures around the altar. "We are trapped in our final moments, bound to this ship by our own folly. The ghostly sailor revealed that the only way to break the curse was to complete the ritual correctly. However, the ritual required a navigator of the Nonni's bloodline, me. It was a heavy burden to bear, the fate of the ship and its lost souls resting on my shoulders. As the specter faded away, leaving us with a final mournful glance, Spoonie and I approached the altar. The relics upon it were ancient and otherworldly, their purpose unclear but undoubtedly vital to the ritual. Among them was an old compass, its needle spinning erratically, as if trying to point us towards an unseen truth. "We need to finish what they started," I said, determination stealing my voice. Spoonie nodded, his expression resolute despite the evident fear. We began the ritual, following the spectral guidance of our ancestor. The air around us grew colder, the glow intensifying as the ghostly chant rose to a crescendo. The ship itself seemed to respond, groaning and creaking as if in pain or anticipation. As I held the compass, it suddenly stilled, the needle pointing directly at the heart of the altar. A surge of energy coursed through the room, the shadows dancing wildly as the ritual neared its completion. We were on the brink of either lifting the curse or unleashing something far worse. The room trembled, the sea's roar audible even within the depths of the Noni. It was a moment of truth, the outcome uncertain. But we had come too far to turn back now. The Noni's fate, and that of its tormented souls, was in our hands. As the ritual neared its climax, the chamber shook violently, a cacophony of creaks and groans echoing through the Noni's steel bones. The air crackled with unseen energy, the spectral crews chanting reaching a fever pitch. Spoonie and I stood firm, the ancient compass in my hand, a beacon in the encroaching darkness. But then, the unexpected happened. From the shadows emerged figures, not ghosts, but something far more sinister. They were the remnants of the Noni's crew, twisted and monstrous, their souls corrupted by the same darkness that had ensnared the ship. They were the guardians of the curse, determined to prevent its lifting. These grotesque beings, once men, now bore the marks of their torment. Their eyes glowed with a malevolent light, and their movements were both pained and predatory. They advanced toward us, a wall of twisted flesh and unrelenting malice. Spoonie and I prepared to defend ourselves, knowing full well that our chances were slim. The cursed crew was relentless, their numbers seemingly endless. As we fought, I couldn't help but feel a sense of sorrow for these lost souls, once proud sailors, now nothing more than pawns in the Noni's dark game. In the midst of the chaos, the ship itself seemed to come alive. The walls pulsed with a sickly light, and the floor beneath us undulated like the surface of a troubled sea. The Noni was fighting back, unwilling to relinquish its hold on the damned. Despite the onslaught, we managed to push our way to the altar. I knew what had to be done. Grasping the compass firmly, I channeled all my focus into completing the ritual. The cursed crew's howls grew louder, a symphony of anguish and rage. With a final determined effort, I placed the compass on the altar. A blinding light erupted from the heart of the ship, enveloping everything in its radiance. The cursed crew's advance halted, their forms dissolving into the light, their tormented screams fading into silence. For a moment there was nothing but blinding white. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, the light receded, leaving us in near darkness once again. The chamber was silent, the cursed crew gone, and the oppressive weight of the Noni's darkness lifted. We had done it. We had broken the curse. But as we caught our breath, the realization of our situation dawned on us. The Noni was still sinking, its descent into the abyss now unimpeded by the supernatural forces that had once held it in stasis. Spoonie and I exchanged a look of grim understanding. The battle may have been won, but our war for survival was far from over. We had to move, and quickly, if we were to escape the Noni's watery grave. With the curse lifted, the atmosphere in the Noni shifted dramatically. The oppressive, haunting energy that once permeated the ship dissipated, leaving a hollow silence in its wake. Spoonie and I knew our time was limited. The ship was still sinking, and we needed to find a way back to the upper decks. As we navigated through the now quiet corridors of the ship, the reality of the Nonni's state became apparent. The once groaning and creaking ship was eerily silent, its halls and rooms like a ghost town. The specters that once haunted these spaces had vanished, leaving behind a tangible sense of loss and sorrow. Our journey to the upper decks was fraught with new dangers. The structural integrity of the Nonni had been compromised, making our ascent treacherous. Corridors that once were familiar now were blocked by debris and twisted metal, forcing us to find alternative routes. In one of the flooded passageways, we stumbled upon remnants of the ship's past, personal belongings of the crew, photographs and mementos from a time before the curse. It was a poignant reminder of the lives lost to the Nonni's dark history. The deeper we climbed, the more unstable the ship became. The walls groaned under the pressure of the ocean's depths, and water began to seep through the cracks, a reminder that time was running out. We reached what was once the crew's living quarters, now a shadow of its former self. The rooms were empty, the memories of the crew long faded. It was a somber march through the remnants of lives once lived. As we approached the main deck, the sound of the ocean grew louder, the reality of our situation setting in. The Nonni was sinking rapidly, and our escape window was closing. Reaching the main deck was a relief, but it was short-lived. The deck was unstable, sections of it collapsing into the ocean. We had to navigate carefully, avoiding the weakened areas that threatened to plummet us into the icy depths below. Finally, we made it to the ship's edge, the vast expanse of the ocean stretching before us. The Nonni, once a mighty vessel, now was a sinking tomb, its secrets and horrors sinking with it. With no time to spare, we prepared to make the final leap into the ocean, hoping against hope that rescue would come. The Nonni had released its hold on us, but the sea was an unforgiving mistress. Our fight for survival was far from over. The ocean roared below us, a relentless reminder of the peril we faced. The Nonni, groaning under its own weight, was moments away from being swallowed by the sea. Spoonie and I stood at the brink, ready to take the plunge into the icy depths below. With a deep breath, we leaped off the sinking ship. The cold hit us like a wall, the shock of the frigid water threatening to paralyze our limbs. We fought through the disorientation, kicking towards the surface with all the strength we could muster. Breaking through the water's surface, we gasped for air, the reality of our situation hitting us with full force. We were alone in the middle of the ocean, with no sign of rescue in sight. The Nonni loomed above us, its massive frame creaking and moaning as it slowly succumbed to the sea. We watched, a mix of relief and sadness in our hearts, as the ship that had been our prison began to disappear beneath the waves. It felt like the end of a nightmare, but our fight for survival was far from over. We floated in the water, conserving our energy, our eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of rescue. The minutes stretched into hours, and hope began to wane. The vastness of the ocean was overwhelming, a stark reminder of our insignificance in the face of nature's might. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and red, despair started to set in. The temperature was dropping, and with it, our chances of survival. Our conversation dwindled, each of us lost in our thoughts, battling our own fears and fatigue. Then, as darkness enveloped us, a faint light appeared in the distance. At first, we thought it was a hallucination, a trick of our weary minds. But as it grew brighter, hope rekindled within us. It was a searchlight, cutting through the night, a beacon of salvation. We shouted and waved, using the last of our energy to draw attention. The light grew closer, and soon we could make out the shape of a vessel. Our rescue had arrived. Relief washed over us, so profound it left us speechless. As we were pulled aboard the rescue vessel, the reality of our ordeal began to sink in. We were safe, against all odds. The crew tended to us, their voices a soothing balm to our frayed nerves. But even as we lay there, recovering, the memory of the Nonni's horrors lingered. We had escaped the cursed ship, but the scars it left would remain with us forever. The Nonni's nightmare was over, but its echoes would haunt our dreams, a constant reminder of the darkness that lies beneath the waves. Lying on the deck of the rescue vessel, wrapped in blankets and sipping on hot coffee, the ordeal on the Nonni felt surreal, like a distant nightmare. Spoonie and I exchanged glances, our eyes reflecting a shared trauma that words couldn't fully capture. The crew of the rescue vessel, a group of seasoned sailors, listened intently as we recounted our tale. Their faces were a mix of disbelief and awe. They had heard legends of the cursed Noni, but like most, dismissed them as seafarers' tales. Seeing our condition, however, made them reconsider. As the vessel cut through the waves, heading back to civilization, I couldn't help but look back at the sea, half expecting to see the Nonni rising from the depths, its curse unbroken. But there was nothing, only the vast, endless ocean. In the safety of the rescue vessel, the adrenaline that had sustained us began to wane, and exhaustion set in. My thoughts were a whirlwind, reliving the events on the Nonni, the ghostly apparitions, the cursed crew, and our desperate fight for survival. Sleep, when it came, was fitful and haunted by nightmares. I awoke to a beautiful sunrise, a stark contrast to the horrors we had faced. The crew informed us that we were close to port, a beacon of normalcy on the horizon. But as we approached land, a sense of unease settled over me. The Nonni's curse might have been broken, but its shadow lingered. Disembarking was surreal. The ground felt unfamiliar under my feet, the sounds of the city jarringly normal. We were debriefed by the authorities, our story met with skepticism. But we knew what we had faced, and that was enough. In the days that followed, Spoonie and I stayed in contact, the bond forged in the Noni's dark corridors unbreakable. We tried to move on, to return to our normal lives, but the sea had changed us. We were survivors, but the cost was high. One night, as I walked along the shore, the ocean's whispers brought back memories of the Nonni. I looked out over the water, half expecting to see her ghostly form. But there was only the sea, calm and inscrutable. In that moment, I understood that the Nonni would always be a part of me, a haunting chapter in my life that I could never fully close. The sea held its secrets, and I had come face to face with one of its darkest. The nightmare was over, but its echoes would linger, a haunting melody that would forever play in the depths of my soul.